This is J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. During the Munich Security Conference, Vance gave a blistering speech criticizing European leaders and their approach to democracy and free speech.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. When we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard. We must do more than talk about democratic values, we must live them. If you're running in fear of your own voters, there is nothing America can do for you. We shouldn't be afraid of our people, even when they express views that disagree with their leadership.
So instead of going to Germany and kissing Europe's ass, Joe Biden style, Vance gave an excellent speech calling out these supposed democratic countries. One moment that stuck out was when he called out Germany and their Orwellian free speech policies.
This very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action.
And this is true, because 2 days later, 60 Minutes aired a segment about Germany's massive crackdown on online trolls.
It's 6:01 on a Tuesday morning, and we were with state police as they raided this apartment in northwest Germany.
Hier ist die Polizei, wir müssen bitte mal mit Ihnen reden.
Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Prosecutors say those electronics may have been used to commit a crime.
So what was the crime?
The crime? Posting a racist cartoon online.
Next, 60 Minutes interviewed Josephine Balan, the CEO of Hate Aid, a so-called human rights organization.
In the United States, a lot of people look at this and say this is restricting free speech. It's a threat to democracy.
Free speech needs boundaries. And in the case of Germany, these boundaries are part of our constitution. Without boundaries, a very small group of people can rely on endless freedom to say anything that they want, while everyone else is scared and intimidated.
But if your speech has boundaries, it's not free speech. So much for human rights, huh?
And your fear is that if people are freely attacked online, that they'll withdraw from the discussion.
This is not only a fear, it's already taking place. Already half of the internet users in Germany are afraid to express their political opinion, and they rarely participate in public debates online anymore. Half of the internet users.
And that's exactly what J.D. Vance was talking about. These internet users aren't afraid of being attacked online. They're afraid that they're going to say something that's suddenly deemed unacceptable, that they'll have their computers and phones seized, receive a hefty fine, and or being thrown in jail.
That's what J.D. Vance is worried about, Margaret. How do the Europeans receive that, and how does that affect U.S. national interests in this tight moment?
Well, it sounded to a lot of these allies of the United States like they were being described as adversaries or autocrats. He says that European leaders aren't showing that they have strong democracies when they sideline controversial groups.
Well, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
He went out of his way to meet with the head of the AfD. That's a political party that's under investigation in Germany because it's so far right and for potentially conducting extremism.
Oh, so the German government is investigating the opposition party for potentially conducting extremism. What, were they posting memes too?
He also met with the leader of a far-right party known as the AfD, which, as you know, is under investigation and monitoring by German intelligence because of extremism.
Wait, first Margaret said that they were being investigated
or potentially conducting extremism.
But then she said that they were being investigated
because of extremism.
Obviously, there's a big difference between potentially conducting extremism and actual extremism. Regardless, I don't put much credence into what the German government thinks is extreme, considering that they're arresting people for memes.
What did all of this accomplish other than irritating our allies?
J.D. Vance irritated our allies. Oh yeah? What are they gonna do about it?
Why would our allies or anybody be irritated by free speech and by someone giving their opinion? We are, after all, democracies. The Munich Security Conference is largely a conference of democracies. They don't have to agree with him, but to be angry about it, I think actually makes his point.
Exactly. The left only likes free speech that it agrees with. Now watch Margaret Brennan try to imply that J.D. Vance is promoting extremism by pulling this historically inaccurate claim out of her ass.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that.
It's probably not a good idea to argue about fascism with a Cuban American whose family fled an authoritarian regime. He's kind of an expert.
I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
And now let's watch Margaret Brennan's most excellent rebuttal.
Mr. Secretary, I'm told that we are out of time. A lot to get through with you. We appreciate you making time today.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a minute.
Classic. So a couple hours after the interview, Brennan doubled down with the following post on X. Here's how the Anti-Defamation League describes the Alternative for Germany party. VP Vance met with its leader in Munich. What you need to know. Wow, the ADL. I really don't care, Margaret. Anyway, this isn't the first time that Marco Rubio has put this Democrat mouthpiece in her place. Here's Face the Nation just 2 days before the 2024 election.
Harris is already running well ahead when it comes to women. Will the gender gap widen with Trump's sexist comments and his violent rhetoric, like this mention of Liz Cheney?
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
For my money, Trump can't drag Liz Cheney enough. But let's continue.
That soundbite a moment ago from Donald Trump talking about training guns on the face of Liz Cheney. The Trump campaign says that was about foreign policy. Well, we just played it for our viewers and listeners who heard it. Isn't it possible to make the case without using rhetoric like that?
But Donald Trump doesn't talk like someone who's been in Washington for 30 years. He
Training
doesn't say it the
guns
way I
on her
would have said it.
face?
No, but that's not what he said. Mario, you guys know that. Come on. I mean, everybody knows exactly what he was saying. What he was saying is, you're so much in favor of war. Yeah, you played a piece of the soundbite, because in another piece of it, he said he would give her a gun to go stand in conflict as well. You don't normally give a gun to someone that's going to be facing a firing squad, which is what much of the media made it sound like.
Oh yes, the firing squad hoax. Anyway, Marco Rubio isn't the only member of the Trump administration owning left-wing media. As you know, President Trump signed an executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. However, the Associated Press made a decision to not embrace the new name. The Gulf of Mexico has carried that name for more than 400 years. The Associated Press will refer to it by the original name while acknowledging the new name Trump has chosen. As a global news agency that disseminates news around the world, the AP must ensure that place names and geography are easily recognizable to all audiences. So the AP claims that they don't want to confuse their global audience. Fine, whatever. But consider the following news article from December 2020. Headline: All My Love, Elliot. Actor Page comes out as transgender. Oscar-nominated actor Elliot Page, the star of Juno, Inception, and The Umbrella Academy, came out as transgender Tuesday in an announcement. And people's first reaction was, Who the hell is Elliot Page? But what happened was that actress Ellen Page changed her name to Elliot and now identifies as a man. However, the article didn't mention the name Ellen Page. Instead, we get confusing sentences like this. Page broke out in Jason Reitman's 2007 film Juno in a performance as a pregnant teenager that earned him an Academy Award nomination. Democrats, this is why you have 4 more years of Trump. Anyway, since the AP has made it clear that it will continue to identify the Gulf as the Gulf of Mexico, the White House decided to take action by indefinitely banning AP reporters from the Oval Office and Air Force One. Womp womp.
The Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America. And they're doing us no favors, and I guess I'm not doing them any favors. That's the way life works.
In a statement, the AP's executive editor, Julie Pace, wrote, "It is alarming that the Trump administration would punish AP for its independent journalism." So according to the Associated Press, independent journalism includes writing whatever you want, even if it's not quite true. Limiting our access to the Oval Office based on the content of AP speech not only severely impedes the public's access to independent news, it plainly violates the First Amendment. No, it doesn't severely impede anything. No one is stopping them from writing what they want, nor are they barred from the White House briefing room. Not letting the AP access the Oval Office or Air Force One has nothing to do with free speech, because obviously not every journalist has the privilege to access those places. Besides, it's not like they weren't warned.
We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
In the meantime, washed-up former MSNBC host Mehdi Hasan quote-posted Mark Caputo of Axios, who wrote an article regarding the AP matter. Hasan used this to call out J.D. Vance. "Hey, J.D. Vance, I know you're busy lecturing the Europeans on free speech, but have you seen this?" And Vice President Vance replied, "Yes, dummy. I think there's a difference between not giving a reporter a seat in the White House briefing room and jailing people for dissenting views. The latter is a threat to free speech. The former is not. Hope that helps." Mehdi Hasan thought that he had VP Vance dead to rights, but instead, he got royally dunked on. You'll love to see it. And speaking of X, be sure that you're following me on X at Don't Walk Run. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time, if there is next time.